Happy birthday to you. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Happy birthday to you, Sarah Faith. Happy birthday to you. Wow.
All right. Hello. Thank you so much for coming today. We're so thrilled that you could come to join to celebrate two very special occasions: Sarah Faith's first birthday and the launch of Kitesong Global. Just to give you a brief overview of the plan for today, after a very short introduction, Wai Jia is going to share a presentation about the story and vision of Kitesong Global, and then we'll transition to the birthday part of the agenda with a quick group photo, and then food, and of course cake. So the two stars of the day hardly need an introduction. You're here, I imagine, because at some point Sarah Faith's smile has entirely brightened your day, or because Wai Jia has asked a kind question, sent you a thoughtful text message, or shared an encouraging word. It has been such an honor to witness the two of them coming to school together all term, and to, as a classmate, to have Wai Jia asking those deep, thoughtful questions in class. Or participating as a very generous team member, and also to watch how you have so carefully and beautifully balanced your dedication to your school and also to your family. So as some of you, one of Wai Jia's books is a book called Savor, and in that book, the title character has a gift for making things grow. And I think that the same could be said about Wai Jia. As some of you may know, Kitesong began as a book that was written to help raise money to build an orphanage in Nepal. And now it's grown into this social venture that we're going to hear much more about today. Using her gifts and passions to respond to the world's greatest needs is what Wai Jia feels that her calling is. And she does this beautifully and organically, organizing her passion into action. She's a medical doctor, an author, and has been recognized as one of Forbes Asia's top 30 under 30. And she's here today to share the inspiring story of Kitesong. So please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Wow. Thank you all for being here today. I am speechless. This feels kind of like a wedding day, but just better, because I actually have a baby now, and my husband is, yeah. Will you join your hands together, to thank all the wonderful people for making this event possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, it's such a privilege to have all of you here today. I know what some of you are thinking. Did she actually plan for this to be at Flying Stone Hall? The answer is no. No, I assure you. What started off as a little wish for me to celebrate Sarah Faith's birthday in a small classroom with a small group of friends has grown into something far greater than I had imagined. So what happened was that the MPH office heard about this. They gave their full support. They booked Flying Stone Hall. I know many of you are from the Anna Beja Society, and also JB Grant made it a school-wide event. And at some point, I thought to myself, I would love to buy all of you lunch to thank you for all your support and encouragement over the year. And then Dr. Marie informed me last week that an anonymous donor had stepped in and sponsored all the food for the event. So from the bottom of my heart, our hearts as a family, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. I really feel led today to just share a little bit of my journey with you and how my journey at Hopkins has, taken a turn. What I feel led to share today is this, that I hope that whatever that I can share about my journey will be of some encouragement to some of you. So as many of you may know, 12 years ago, I began my journey, and I had a life-changing experience in Nepal where I stayed at a home of 30 girls, and that experience completely transformed my worldview. Now, these 30 girls, they don't have parents, many of them. Some of them do, but they were beaten or abused or abandoned. And when I was staying with them, what struck me was this, that they had so much joy and light and hope in their eyes, which really stunned me because I was thinking, based on their circumstances, they shouldn't be feeling like this or living like this, but they were. And I remember several of them coming up to tell me, Didi, which is older sister in Nepalese, they would say, Didi, I really want to be a doctor. That broke my heart because at that time, I was applying to medical school too. But unlike them, I had all the opportunities in the world. The other scary thing was this, that I found out that every single year, the landlords would evict them from their house because of increasing rent. And then I found out from these girls that every time they moved, they don't pick up a phone and just move. Every single girl is mobilized. And I saw the youngest 3-year-old girl picking up her socks and underwear, trying to fit them onto this huge truck, and seeing them all of them disenroll from school and re-enroll into a different school. That was completely heartbreaking. And at that time, I wasn't even sure if God existed, because if he did, how could this injustice happen to these children? I remember at that time, I prayed. I didn't even know who I was praying to or what I was praying about. I just said, God, give me a chance to do something for these children. And then a crazy idea hit me. I thought to myself, if just maybe, if I published a book, could it be used to raise funds for a home for them? Because what these children really needed was a permanent place to call home. But the house parents told me this would cost $250,000. And I thought to myself, where am I going to get that kind of money? So I flew back. I had these ideas, and I sketched them on the plane, came home, told people about this idea, and they all said the same thing. These were well-meaning people, people who loved me. And they said, Wai Jia, this is a great idea, but you know what? It's just got to wait. It's got to wait because you're too young. And the scary thing was this. I believed them. I believed them because I was 18, I had no credentials, I had not even been accepted to medical school yet. Who would believe me? But one person did. One person did. And what he did was to refer me to his publisher, and that publisher told me that he would sponsor 2,000 copies of Kitesong. And within 6 months, they raised more than $100,000 to purchase this home in Nepal for the girls. And so since then, every couple of years, I would go back and I would visit them. And just a year and a half ago, I finally brought my husband with me. Because every time I went back, I was single, and they would ask me, so Didi Wai Jia, when are you going to get married? You have to bring your boyfriend and your husband. And now they've made me promise to bring Seraphie. So I got to go back again. But I remembered them. And these are the girls 1.5 years ago, when they were so little. Now they've grown, and they've become teachers, accountants. One of them is a nurse. And this is a picture of almost the same girls sitting in almost the same positions 10 years apart. So our dreams, no matter how small, I'm learning, can have unimaginable endings. After this experience, however, I fell into a deep depression. Throughout medical school, some of you might know that I struggled with anorexia. And during those years, I wasn't even sure if I would live, much less graduate. And I remember during my recovery, I started to paint, and I started to paint these pictures about my own recovery. And one day, as I grappled with God and I wondered, did he really care for me? Did he really care for my dreams? It dawned upon me that if I ever recovered, then I had the responsibility to help those who were struggling as well. And so I had this crazy idea again. I said, what if I published this book and used it in therapy and support groups to help people struggling with eating issues? And then again, people told me, they said, Wai Jia, that's a great idea, but it's really foolish because I was just about to graduate, just about to apply for residency, and all these people were telling me, what are you going to tell the interviewers? If this gets on the press, the stigma that's going to be attached to you is going to be terrible. What are you, a doctor, a patient? I was really hurt, but I'm so glad that a few people believed in the idea, and together with them, we pushed through. And I know many of you in this room, you look at the awards, you look at the email, and you think to yourself, you know, this girl, she's accomplished, you know, she has awards and all that. But I want to assure you one thing, that over the past 12 years, it has not been like that. It was not like this at all. My publishers told me, they said, your books have no market. Nobody's going to read these books because they're not children's books, they're not adult books, there's somewhere in between, there's no niche. They're too niche. So they'll never make it to bookstores. Yeah, they're too niche, sorry. And so I just lived with it. And it took 10 years of waiting, 10 years of prayer, that an international publisher took notice of the books and said, I'm going to take a risk on you, let's put them on Amazon. But it took 10 years. And I know many of you here have dreams that are small, dreams that you've come and brought to Hopkins, and I just want to let you know about this, that no matter how small your dreams are, guard them, steward them, because you're the only one who can bring them to pass. And the struggles that you face in your life, they're going to be what gives your dreams wings. A year later, I met my ex-boyfriend, who has now become my husband. And some of you who know Cliff, he has a remarkable life story of his own. When he was little, he had liver cancer, and then he went on to get a liver transplant, and then went on to do a 14-hour Ironman triathlon event. How crazy is that? And I remember when he came into my life at that point, I thought to myself, this guy is horrible, because he proposed to me at the worst possible time when I was applying for my MPH at Johns Hopkins 5 years ago, and he ruined everything. So I ended up marrying him instead, which actually turned out to be a better plan. That's why I'm meeting all of you here today, because I postponed my application. And I remember at the time when we got married, people told us the same thing. People told me that, Wai Jia, you're a medical doctor. This is a really bad idea. Because at that time, Cliff had a medical crisis, his first medical crisis in his life. And they said, you know, Wai Jia, you should know better. This is such a foolish decision. This is such a high-risk thing that you are doing. Like, what are you thinking? So you see the recurring pattern in my life. And I told them, you know, I said, it's risk all about just calculations and making sure we get the best possible outcome. Is that it? I know the biostats people here are laughing. I heard those. But you know what? We went ahead. We got married. And on that day, I remember, Cliff and I decided that we would give every single cent we received to the needy. And this was a big deal for us because in Asia, on your wedding day, people typically give you money. And that money is used to start off your marriage on the right foot, buy a house and all that. And I had cold feet. Because at that time, I wasn't even sure, you know, if we had enough money for a house and what we needed. And Cliff reminded me of one thing. He said, I want us to build our marriage on a foundation of faith, not fear. So on that day, we launched my third book, I Love You. And this was used to raise $60,000, which we gave away to Cambodia and Kolkata. 2 social enterprises were set up, one of which is White Linen. This is in Phnom Penh. And up to today, they're still rescuing sex workers who are being given new livelihood skills so that they don't have to return to the sex trade. After we got married, we took a year off and we decided to serve in Uganda. And since that experience, Savor was birthed. And Savor was really about a book that encaptures what it means to really savor life. Because I didn't understand what that was before I met Cliff, before his transplant, before his cancer made me understand the brevity of life and the short time we have here on earth to make a difference. And so Savor is now being used in various workshops and schools to kind of empower young people to rethink their ideals of success. But I have a confession to make. When I came to Hopkins, I struggled because I wanted to do something big and significant. I thought to myself, you know, if I keep low and I stay low, nobody will find out about my picture books. Because if they find out that I wrote these picture books, they're going to label me and they're going to say that I'm a children's book illustrator, which I'm not. You know, I want to do something important. I want to work with Gavi and UNICEF and WHO. And so I kept that secret to myself. And what I did was like, I did the right thing. I knocked on the professors' doors. You see many of them in this room right now. I knocked on their doors. I said, these are what I can do for you. These are my research talents. Give me an important project to do because I can do it. But guess what? Nothing fit. Nothing fit. And one day I remember I was in a professor's office and I told him, this is my CV. What can I do for you? And he looked at me and I could see him throw my CV across the table in slow motion. And he looked at me and he said, Wai Jia, what do you want to do with your life? At that moment, he called me out. And I was shaking because this is a stranger and I felt he saw right through me. And I told him, you're the first person I'm going to confess this to. I want to start Kitesong Global. And he said, do it. So literally, I ran out of his office. I ran to Dr. Andy Ruff's office because she was my advisor at the time. And the best thing was I bumped into her at the corridor. So I grabbed her and she said, you know what, Wai Jia, you should talk to Dr. Marie. That night, I wrote an email to Dr. Marie with very shaky fingers. And the next morning at 8 a.m., I was at her office. And she said, you know what? This can be your practicum and capstone. Do it. We're going to support you. Go forth. The scary thing was this, at that point in time, I had no idea what Kitesong Global was going to be. Zero. So when they said that they would support me, I was like, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But the same thing happened. When I called mentors, people who cared about me back home, and people whom I wanted their opinion from, they all said the same thing. I called somebody and he said, you know what, Wai Jia, you're a mom right now, you're a student, focus on that. Don't do all these frivolous things anymore. You have to focus. And when I heard that, I was a little taken aback. I made another phone call, and this person told me, Wai Jia, you know what? For once in your life, would you settle down, do something important? And then the last person I called said, Wai Jia, you're on a scholarship. And you come to Hopkins, and when you graduate from Hopkins, what are people going to think of you? Nobody's going to read Kitesong anymore. That belonged to an 18-year-old girl. Who are you today? And when I ended those phone calls, I started to weep. I wept not just for days, I wept for weeks. And one day in my own space at home, Cliff found me just weeping and weeping and weeping. I started to ask myself real existential questions. I started to ask myself if this was really worth it. If Kitesong Global was really worthwhile doing, I don't want to graduate from Hopkins just with this. And then it was then I remembered what Kitesong really stood for. And for the first time in my life, I actually wrote down the definition of Kitesong for the first time in 12 years. And this was what it was. And I know some of you will think I'm crazy, but at that moment, I received a vision, and the books were all over the world. And at that time, I almost said aloud, literally, no, it cannot be. Because, firstly, I'm not an entrepreneur. Secondly, I'm not a leader. And thirdly, the books are in English. They can't go all over the world. But I kid you not, what happened was that 6 days later, a complete stranger writes to me from Singapore, and she says that, I've been following your blog for the past 6 years, and I want you to know that I have been wanting to translate your books into Japanese and East Timorese for the people who have been devastated and traumatized by the tsunami and natural disasters. And when I heard that, I started to shake. A week later, I was in school, and 2 separate people, one of them from our class, came up to me and she said, I need to translate your books into Mandarin. And immediately I said, you can't do that. My publisher says there's no market. He won't do it. Guess what? They translated them anyway. A week later, I call my publisher and I tell him all these crazy things that's been happening, and he takes a 180-degree turn and he says, you know what, Wai Jia? We're going to do it. We're going to translate them. We're going to get them printed. I have contacts. We're going to do this. And 2 weeks ago, when I was in California interning at a missions organization, in the morning, somebody texted me. And this is a friend I don't know very well, but she works at a seminary. And she texted me and she says, Wai Jia, I know this sounds weird, but I felt God telling me this morning that I need to translate your books into Spanish for you to help the underserved Latino population. And she says, do you think I'm weird? And I'm reading the text, I'm like, do I think you're weird? So what I'm saying is this, that I know many of us in this room have dreams. We have dreams that we want to accomplish, and there are dreams that we don't see the end to. But what I want to share with you is this, that those dreams come from somewhere, and those dreams are small. And I know that throughout your life, your studying life, and even at our time here, the world will tell you this, that there is no dream too big for you to dream. But may I suggest for us to consider today that perhaps there's also no dream too small? There's no dream too small. I think about the times where... Absolutely, Seraphi. You go, girl. So, I think about the times where people have called me fluffy or frivolous. I think about the times where as a mother, actually, people have looked at me and wondered, can she actually do this? Absolutely. Yeah. But when I think about this, I also remind myself that there's a part of me, like all of you, who desperately wants to save lives millions at a time. And there's that ache in our hearts that can we do more? Is there more that we can do? Can I do something more important, more significant? But when I think about the one life that was saved because she was saved out of sex trafficking and could get married, when I think about the one life who was able to get an education and become a nurse and fulfill her dream, then I'm reminded that as much as it's important for us who want to save lives millions at a time, is it not just as important for us to save lives one at a time? One at a time. So I want all of you to enjoy this. This is the original kite song. Kite song. I like kites. I like to fly kites because they make me feel so free. So free. There is a kite song within me that will not be still. Higher and higher my kite goes, but how unpredictable the winds can be. Kites, like dreams, slip away so easily. Run, run for your dreams. Keep running. Don't stop. It's never easy to realize your dreams. Sometimes it feels like everyone is laughing at you. And nobody believes in you. It feels like you'll never be good enough for anyone or anything. Even when you try so hard, the world can be so very unforgiving. Lost dreams are never really lost, just hard to find. Trials can be beautiful things. They make our dreams seem further and dimmer. And altogether impossible. But when we take the leap and reach the end, weary and exhausted, our dreams are often more beautiful. never thought they would be. Kite songs are singing in the sky. I'm sharing this with all of you today, not because I'm amazing, not because I'm a leader, not because I'm better in any way. I'm sharing this with you today because Kitesong happened to an 18-year-old girl who was struggling with depression and who didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. And it happened. And I believe that in this room, each of us has the power to make a difference to the world around us. I believe that there's a power greater than we far imagine that's able to take our dreams and turn it into something that we never dared imagine possible in the right time. And I want to say this, the work that you're doing right now, right here, it's not in vain. It's not in vain. So today, Kitesong Global is being launched as an international non-profit social venture. And the whole idea is for it to catalyze change and transform communities through the power of narrative, through campaigns or advocacy and literacy programs. And I've decided to launch it on Sarah Faith's birthday because it is my gift to her. I want her to know that when she grows up and that when she becomes a mom, at any point in her life, she can be free to pursue her dreams. And I've invited all of you today here to celebrate with us because I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the times that you were with us in school and you let us be with you at lectures and seminars, for helping me with biostats and different things outside of TA hours because I couldn't have her with me. Thank you for giving us smiles, for welcoming us into your home. So on behalf of our family, I want to tell you, thank you for being our family, for sowing into our lives, for believing in us, for believing in Kitesong Global. It is my prayer that each of us here in this room would be free to dream and free to set 1 million other kite songs free. Thank you. So, without further ado, I am going to invite all of us to sing Happy Birthday to you. Happy, oh my goodness. Oh wow. Happy birthday to Sarah Faith. Happy birthday to you. Wow. Cliff, you want to do the honors? And I'll let Cliff, my husband, do the honors.
Can you make a wish yet? 1, 2, 3.
I don't know why, but I'm told that the second cake is for Kitesong. I don't know why it has so many more candles than one, but let this be to the longevity of the NGO. All right, thank you. One last thing. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. One last thing I forgot. To To thank all of you for being here today, I'm giving away 100 copies of the limited edition first print of the 4 titles of Kitesong Global. So if you're here, feel free to grab a copy. I'll be at the back doing signing if you'd like me to. And if you feel like you want to pass on the blessing, you want to bless someone with the message behind the books, they are available on purchase at Amazon. Thank you. Oh, what a surprise! God's blessing you now. God's blessing you now. God's blessing you now. God's blessing you now. Thank you, God, for my first birthday. Yay! Thank you all.